Welcome to the channel, English Epics. The lanterns illuminated the road as the black Jeep car glided steadily along. Behind the wheel was my wife, Adelina. She always drove with authority and grace along the highway. We had been invited to spend the weekend at our mutual friend's dasha. Our plans included relaxing, barbecuing, and perhaps even swimming in the lake. Despite it being early September, the nights were warm and the days could get quite hot. Adelina pulled over by a gas station and said, adjusting her makeup, "Robert, dear, could you get some coffee, please? I'm tired. Let's take a break." Her request sounded more like an order. She looked at me with her angelic blue eyes, peering down from above. "Sure, I'll be right back," I replied, leaving the car. I noticed that the gas station was nearly empty. Only a few cars, probably travelers from far away, were waiting their turn. As I approached the coffee machine, I saw a tall man with broad shoulders and dark hair heading towards his car. I don't know why, but he caught my eye. The wind picked up as I returned to my beloved wife. On the way, I spotted the same man walking away from our car. I was puzzled. What was he doing there? He didn't seem like an old acquaintance of Adelina's. I always knew who she associated with. "Who was that approaching?" I asked, handing her the coffee. "No idea. He seemed lost and asked for directions," she replied with an icy tone, not even bothering to look at me. We continued our journey. The dacha was just a few kilometers away. It was already 11:47 p.m. Adelina's phone chimed, and a notification popped up on the screen. It was a message from someone named Bert. "When will we meet? What meeting is he talking about?" I asked my wife, surprised and suspicious at the same time. She continued to look ahead, composed as ever. Without any hesitation in her voice, she replied, "He's my business partner. Put the phone back." She said nothing more. I loved my blonde wife deeply, but I often felt jealous. There were many successful men around her, just like her, firm directors. I felt unworthy, having achieved much less at 35 compared to Adelina. She was highly intelligent and always knew which projects to invest in. Eventually, she even bought out and took charge of a cosmetics company. Career success was crucial for Adelina, which I couldn't say for myself. I had been dreaming of having a child for 3 years, but my wife was categorically against it. I sincerely hoped that my dream would come true someday. "We're here, right?" We arrived at my friend Anton's fence. I got out of the car and opened the gate. Adelina drove in, and we both greeted the host before heading to the room they had prepared for us in advance. Sunlight filtered through the curtains. Adelina's hair cascaded in waves over the white pillow. Her fair skin seemed to glow. She was asleep, and I didn't want to disturb her. Let her rest, thanks to her firm. Adelina rarely had a chance to sleep. Well, getting up from the bed, I dressed and washed up. I put on the white shirt and pants that my wife had carefully selected for me on the last weekend shopping trip. Descending the stairs to the kitchen, I planned to make coffee in bed for my beloved. However, I was in for a surprise. There stood the same man from the gas station, his muscular torso exposed as he brewed coffee. "Good morning." He turned around as he heard me. "Good morning. Coffee?" He offered me a cup. "Yes, please," I replied, staring at him, trying to figure out why he was there. Anton hadn't mentioned another guest. I expected it would be just our families. "My name is Bert." The mysterious guy from the gas station introduced himself and handed me a cup of hot drink. "I'm Robert. Nice to meet you, and thanks for the coffee." Suddenly, I remembered the message on my wife's phone. Wasn't this guy named Bert? It was quite an uncommon name. I didn't know many people with it. Were these two different individuals? And why did the business partner ask about a meeting so late? My thoughts were interrupted by soft footsteps from the direction of the bathroom. Sleepy Anton emerged, with his hair in disarray, wearing a crumpled black t-shirt, Apparently, he had hastily thrown something on. "Good morning. Oh, I see you've already met. Robert, I forgot to mention that we have another person joining us." "This is Bert," Anton said, and both Bert and I stared at him. It seemed that the guy from the gas station wasn't surprised by my presence, unlike me. While I observed Anton, I remembered the coffee for my wife. Quickly preparing another cup, I took the tray with a few croissants and headed upstairs. Adelina had just woken up and was sitting on the edge of the bed, brushing her hair. "Good morning, darling. I brought you coffee in bed," I said, placing the tray beside her. "Thank you, dear," she said, taking the cup in her small hands. Another person joined us downstairs. Anton said his name is Bert. "Is he the same business partner who messaged you?" I informed my wife. "No, I'm sure it's not him," she replied. Her hand trembled slightly, and her commanding voice showed an uncharacteristic uncertainty. "All right," I said, suspicious. "Get ready and come downstairs. I'll go help Anton with the barbecue." A little later, Adelina joined us in the courtyard, wearing a beautiful open swimsuit. The garment accentuated her figure, and her fair skin added aristocracy to the blonde girl. Gracefully, my wife made her way to the nearby lake as the sun shone brightly, necessitating sunscreen application. I looked at Anton, and together we almost finished assembling the structure. Bert came out of the house, followed by Lima, Anton's wife. The new acquaintance offered his help, and Lima started cleaning the vegetables while Anton and I began grilling the meat. Bert carried the firewood, which Anton had prepared in advance. Adelina disappeared from sight, and I started scanning the area, unable to find her anywhere. "Adelina seems to have gone to the lake, right?" Anton asked, seeking clarification. "Exactly, the lake," I exclaimed, breaking into a run to cover the distance quickly. Bert ran faster and overtook me, arriving at the lakeshore a minute before me. "Adelina," he called out, running around the shore, searching for my wife. I joined him, and then caught a glimpse of something flickering in the middle of the lake. "That's her!" Bert exclaimed, and jumped into the water, swimming towards the moving object. I followed him, and within seconds he was already hauling something towards the shore. It was my wife. Together we pulled Adelina out of the water. She wasn't breathing. We administered emergency medical assistance, and she started coughing, abruptly opening her eyes. "Adelina, my love." I took her in my arms and carried her back to the house. "Thank you for your help, Bert." The evening approached, and the sun was setting. My wife remained in her room throughout. She had been through a lot of stress, and she needed to rest. I noticed that Adelina was texting someone on her phone. Bert seemed suspicious to me, especially since he approached her at the gas station earlier. The message came from someone named Bert. I doubted they were two different people. Most likely, my wife was hiding something from me. I needed to check her phone while she was still asleep. The incident with Adelina had spoiled our planned festivities. We were all on edge and tired, so we decided to continue the next day. The noise in the house subsided, and Lima wished everyone a good night before retiring to her room. Anton sat on the porch, chatting about nothing with Bert. "How's work?" Anton asked his friend. "Not bad. We're planning to expand our operations." "There are a couple of details to sort out, but I think we can handle them," Bert cryptically replied. There was no doubt now. He was my wife's business partner. Adelina was asleep. It was time to act. I took her phone from the nightstand and found the familiar name in her chats. Scrolling through the conversation, I realized that Bert was indeed her business partner. However, one thing puzzled me. They arranged to meet tomorrow to discuss some details that couldn't be talked about over the phone. Was my wife involved in something illegal? The next day, we decided to have a picnic in the nearby forest. By lunchtime, the food and blankets were ready, and Anton brought his guitar. We'd recall our youth, singing old songs by the campfire. Adelina stood on the porch in a light dress. It was a hot day. Bert approached her from behind. "We'll meet behind the house tonight. We need to handle the girl's departure," he said before walking away as quietly as he had arrived. The ladies decided to leave in a couple of hours. Lima baked an apple pie, and after a snack, we all dispersed to our own activities. In the room, I found Adelina, lying on the bed, lost in thought. "Is everything okay?" I casually asked. "Yes, Robert. Everything's fine. It's just that there's so much to do at work. Maybe it wasn't the best idea to come here with you." "I shouldn't have left my work behind," she replied. "It's a good thing we came here." "You need to take some time to rest," I said, wearily sitting down on the bed. "Think about yourself a little. I love her more than life, despite it not being the life I dreamed of. But for her career is essential, and I want to share all her joys, cares, sadness, and problems." I couldn't remember the last time I felt warmth from Adelina. She's different from other girls, determined, intelligent, cunning. She knows her worth and won't settle for temporary passion. Sensible, and yet quick. The time for the appointed meeting arrived. My wife came out of the room and went to a quiet and discreet spot behind the house where Bert was waiting for her. I decided to follow her and eavesdrop on their conversation. I don't think it's a good idea, but I'm telling you, no one will find out. I have a husband, and I think he suspects. We need to send the girls the day after tomorrow. They won't be looked for, right? No, they've been sold. They began to separate, and I hid before they could spot me. From the fragments of their conversation, I couldn't make out much. But one thing was clear. Their business had taken an illegal turn. We were already heading back to the dacha. After the information I received during the day, I needed to relax. Anton brought 2 bottles of brandy. On the way, the girls chatted about their own affairs, while Anton and I discussed politics and sports. Bert was silent, occasionally interjecting with isolated phrases. Lima spread a blanket on the glade, and the sun's rays filtered through the trees, creating a pleasant shade. Anton and Bert kindled the campfire, and I prepared the salad. Adelina seemed lost in thought. When everything was ready, we sat down to eat, accompanied by a little drinking. Anton took out his guitar and sang with a rough, hoarse voice, slightly intoxicated. Everyone was enchanted, occasionally joining in. The evening was drawing to a close, and we, drunk and happy, made our way back to the dacha, laughter echoing through the street. I had almost forgotten about my suspicions. Adelina continued to pretend she was not acquainted with Bert, while he tried to get closer to her, offering a blanket or pouring coffee from the thermos. It irritated me. I felt jealous. The night passed without incidents, and we bid farewell to our friends and went to bed. My wife slept soundly beside me, but by morning, I couldn't find her in bed. Perhaps she went to get a drink of water. In the morning, our group gathered in the kitchen. We chatted, reminiscing about how we met and all the joyful moments in life. "Dear friends, Anton and I have some good news," Lima said, standing up from the table. "Our lives will soon change significantly, as we will be 3. I am pregnant." Upon hearing this, 3 pairs of shocked eyes and 1 pair of happy eyes turned towards Anton's wife. Everyone rushed to congratulate Anton's family. My friend's dream had come true. Later that evening, I walked towards the bathroom, where strange sounds were coming from. Upon listening carefully, I realized they were moans from my wife. Hoping I was mistaken, I peered through the partially closed door's crack. To my horror, it was her, with Bert. My world crumbled at that moment. My only desire was to burst in there and hurt Bert, but that would be too easy. My pain deserved more. Stunned, I quietly returned to my room, pretending I hadn't seen anything. I remembered they were planning to leave tomorrow. I decided to follow them, gather evidence of their illegal activities, and find out exactly what they were up to. Words cannot express how difficult and painful it is to sit here on the bed, waiting for them to finish, and for Adelina to come out. My love for her has died forever. The beloved blonde has turned into a filthy shadow. I'll never understand what she was lacking. I was there for her during the toughest moments of her life when all her friends turned away. I cared for her, loved her, protected her. And now I sit on the bed, tearing my hair out. I want to scream. I feel so weak at this moment. For her, I gave up on my dream. And in turn, she easily gave up on me. Revenge will be cruel. She will feel everything I feel now, 100 times over. I'll ruin her life and dreams, everything she worked on for years. Adelina's company will be shut down, and she will end up in jail with Bert. Death is too easy, a punishment for them. Let them suffer. From a former queen to society's outcast. Sounds good. I waited for my wife to sleep. But I don't want to sleep, especially not beside her. An idea crossed my mind. I took her phone, took screenshots of the addresses of the workshops where they might be involved in something illegal, sent them to myself, and then deleted the evidence from her phone. Now I can sleep. At 6 a.m., all the bags were packed, and we said goodbye to the hosts of the house, planning to meet again in a month. I loaded the suitcases into the trunk, and Adelina took the wheel. We set off. So, any plans for today? I casually asked. I needed to know when she would head to the location. I have some work-related errands to run. As soon as we get home, I'll change and head out, Adelina replied confidently, in her authoritative tone. I nodded in response. The rest of the journey was silent. To save time, I checked the locations of the workshops on the map. As I suspected, they were outside the city in a deserted area, away from prying eyes. Finally, we were back home. I changed into a black tracksuit not to stand out. Adelina left to meet Bert. I followed them. Near the workshop, a row of young girls aged 16 to 20 stood, visibly frightened and unsure of why they were there. Adelina was talking with Bert while armed guards patrolled the area. I remained unnoticed, keeping my distance. Suddenly, an armored Volkswagen pulled up, and a bald man in dark glasses and a business suit stepped out. Swiftly, I took out my phone and photographed what I witnessed, also capturing the license plate of the bald man's car. Is that all? He asked loudly. Yes, it's our choice that we've picked the best ones, Bert replied. I hope so, the man in dark glasses said, turning to face the girls. Don't just stand there, get in the van. The frightened girls remained in place. Can't you hear me? My wife yelled at them. This time they obeyed. Perfect, the man said, satisfied. This is for you, he said, handing a bag of money to Adelina. I also took a photo of that moment. It's been a pleasure doing business with you, my wife smiled sweetly. The van drove away. What I had witnessed shocked me. The woman I lived with for 5 years was trafficking people. How could I have been so blind? Regardless, the deed was done. Today I will visit my police investigator. This sweet couple won't escape now. I headed to my car, which I parked a kilometer away for safety. In the evening, as planned, Adelina would be at home. Approaching the investigator's office, I called my wife, telling her I would be delayed at work. I have something for you that will help solve a crime, I said, sitting down and beginning my story. I understand. Thank you for the information. Tomorrow we'll proceed with the arrest. Hopefully, we can intercept the van, the investigator replied. Thank you very much, I said, leaving the office satisfied with my work. Tomorrow, she would pay for her lies and betrayal. Citizen Carter, Citizen Black, you are under arrest. I stood, near my now ex-wife's office, watching as they led Adelina and Bert out. She shouted that she was innocent, sobbing and begging for release. It's all Bert's fault. I didn't do anything, and I don't know anything. In this desperate situation, she sank even lower in my eyes. Adelina was ready to blame anyone to save herself. They both received 10 years in prison. Her company went bankrupt, and she couldn't afford a decent lawyer. She got what she deserved, just as I wanted. When she gets out of prison, I'll make sure all doors are closed for her. The queen won't be needed by anyone. It was her mistake. She didn't have to do all this. I threw all her belongings out of the apartment. I burned her expensive dresses and smashed her favorite vases. Let nothing of her remain. Her Dior perfumes are now used by local beggars. I tore my belongings, the ones she carefully picked out for me, based on her sense of style, and used them as rags to clean the floor. How glad I am to have rid my life of this trash. It's just a shame I wasted 5 years, and I'm happy that she didn't get pregnant. I deserve better. I'll find a simple and kind girl who, like me, wants a family and children. Then my dream will come true. Thank you for being with us. And if you're one of those who watches silently, just leave a like. It helps new stories come to light.